Welcome to the Legendarium Dream Team. I'm your host, Kiptan, and with me today we have Ashaman,
Hello.
Dusty,
Howdy.
and Hurin Fan.
Ohio.
This is our final episode on the Hyperion Cantos. Maybe we'll do a wrap-up, maybe we won't, who knows. But we'll be talking about the rise of Endymion and the Hyperion Cantos as a whole. The Rise of Endymion is the end of the famous Hyperion Cantos, and also the end of the two-book duology that started with Endymion. The Rise of Endymion was nominated for the Hugo Award in 1998 and won the Locus Award for Best Science Fiction Novel.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Do
you guys have any thoughts about if you think this book should be award-winning or not?
I think the other three were more deserving.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, this one, I do really like it still, but it definitely felt like the weakest of the series to me.
No complaints there.
Yeah, I had trouble getting through parts of it. I set it down, I started a lot earlier because you guys read super fast. But I set it down for 3 weeks at 75%, was no.
I think this book needed someone to take a hatchet to it and cut out a lot of description. I felt like I was reading Robert Jordan for parts of it.
Yes! Oh, yes! I 100% thought that.
It did feel a bit like this was the book where he decided that he was going to go all in on landscape description.
And people introductions.
Mm-hmm.
And explaining all of the loose threads in a very meticulous manner.
Mm-hmm.
And also just lists of names.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lots of lists of names.
Like a full paragraph listing.
Yeah, full paragraphs of names that you're never going to hear again, or at least not very much.
James Joyce did that a lot.
You're definitely never going to meet the people.
The book would have just been better if they had been removed.
Yep. I feel like he thought that he needed to make up for the lack of listing of names in the originals.
This is the longest one too, right?
It felt the longest.
I don't know about that. It's 579 pages, so it's pretty long.
I thought that one of them was close to 700 pages, like the Fall of Hyperion.
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Maybe I'm just thinking of other series.
This one's Rise of Endymion.
That is the biggest of the 3 books you're holding.
Endymion is 441. Fall of Hyperion is 517. Hyperion is 482.
Okay.
This one's got on the cover.
Nice. I don't know which one you're referring to, but that instantly bumps that one up like a good half star for me.
Yeah.
All of these covers are metal. I love them.
They are really beautiful covers.
If you were going to give a star rating to Rise of Endymion, what would you rate it?
I'd probably give it a 4.
I will also go for a 4, but yeah, I'll just go a 4. But I still think it's a good ending.
Yeah.
Like a really good ending, and it finished everything that I think Simmons was going for and set up in the last 3 novels. So structurally, I would have to bump it down, but otherwise, I really, really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are the issues that I mentioned that I had, and specific complaints about that listeners will probably be able to guess that I'll have. But besides that, very good. It fits together. It's cohesive for the most part, and it's a very good ending.
But love.
Oh, we'll get to that.
I assume we'll get there. Do you feel like it had an appropriate amount of tied up threads from the first 3 books?
Yes.
It had more than I expected.
Yeah, okay. I don't think a discussion is going to be much more profitable before going into spoilers, so let's do that. Anybody who hasn't read the Hyperion Cantos and thinks that they might, stop the episode now. This is your warning. Red, I know you're listening. Okay, let's go into full spoilers, and I will give a brief, very brief recap of what happens in this book. In the first part, we meet Rawl and Ania on the planet of Old Earth as they go through an architectural fellowship program. And then Rawl and Ania depart when Frank Lloyd Wright's Cybrid dies, and Rawl goes through an extensive period of journeying, including a long detour with a kidney stone, before meeting up again with Ania on the planet of Tainshan, and meets her again at the temple hanging in the air, where she is finishing construction on an ancient Buddhist monastery.
Wow. It's, if she's just finishing construction, it can't be ancient, right?
It's the sentiment.
It has a feeling of ancientness.
Yes.
it's hundreds of years old.
Hmm.
She was just adding a pavilion.
That's true.
It's like the cathedrals we were talking about earlier. These are
Right.
multiple 100-year projects.
That's true.
We get a bit of cathedral building and talking and discussion, and then the Pax attacks, and we're again in our flight for our life until Ania rejoins the Ousters, and then stuff happens, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happens. Does anyone else, whenever you hear or read about kidney stones, just get the urge to drink water, like a lot of water?
Yep.
Yeah.
I haven't had kidney stones, but I've had a comparable experience. And the descriptions that Dan Simmons was given here felt very spot on. And also that at some point between Endymion and the Rise of Endymion, he had a kidney stone and really wanted to just put his feelings on paper.
Wait, did he really?
I have no clue.
I don't
That's
know.
what
I
it seemed
thought
like.
you researched and found that out.
No, I don't do
okay.
that. I just make assumptions.
I say it's canon.
Yeah, I can't find anything with a quick search.
Yeah, this Simmons guy, I think he's a writer or something because he knows how to describe things very empathetically.
That's true.
So, what was your favorite world of the early trips?
The
Define
Tian Shan.
early trips.
Before Tian Shan.
Oh.
Before that was
His river crossings.
the one with the sky squids.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the
That was
crazy lightning show.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
he was in it for 12 hours, and like he stayed awake. He survived the first 6, and he slept through the last 6.
The only one that comes to mind for me is the one with the Spectrum people.
Vitus
I
Ray
like-
Valianus B.
Yes, that one.
What?
I didn't like the kidney stone part very much, but I liked the world itself.
I like the people.
I
Mhm.
liked
Yeah,
the
they were
MO80
cool.
Spectrum Helix. Yeah, they were pretty cool people. Cool religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. Their whole structure.
And I like them giving the packs the run for their money and running around and bureaucracy tying them up. It's cool.
Yeah.
I kind of wish they'd spent a little bit more time on what the different colors mean, but also I'm very happy that they didn't.
Yeah, you were complaining earlier that sounded like Robert Jordan.
Oh boy, yeah, that would have been just quite a thing. Or they like two chapters of just explaining the different colors of this religion that does not matter at all to the story.
And then you find out that at their old world they actually had a white tower.
Oh, that would have been good. That would have been some good commentary. Right
And a
there.
woman who wore a rainbow stole to represent all the colors.
Hey.
Did you feel for their plight in the cruciform? Their little child with cancer?
Yeah.
They're kind of in the same position that DeSoya's family was in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, especially as you find out more and more that a lot of those diseases were like kind of like pushed on them by like Technocore and other stuff.
Yeah, did you feel like that was retconning at all?
It felt like there was a lot of soft retconning going on here.
Yeah.
Not just in this part, but like the whole book.
The like nanotech ban?
Yeah.
I remember my
Yeah.
first time through thinking that there was a lot of retconning, but then this time I was saying, yeah, it's a retcon, but I don't care because of the frame narrative.
I don't mind most of it. I think they overused the Uncle Martin didn't know what he was talking about when he wrote the cantos.
But that's so reasonable.
It is. This isn't a big mark against the book for me. It just felt like he was doing it a lot.
I think it would have been better if they didn't need to mention it so much.
I think it would have been great if they didn't use the exact same words so often.
Yeah. I mean, just switch around the ordering even.
But we later learned that Uncle Martin actually did hear the voices of the past, right?
Eventually.
Oh, eventually.
Yeah, after he'd written the parts of the cantos that everyone read.
Okay, well, there goes that.
He only had a hazy connection at first before Ania was born. He had the connection that poets have had through the ages.
Yes.
Yeah.
This ending was like a love letter to a pat on the back for authors, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
We are the most empathetic people.
Oh,
We hear the
man.
voices of the dead and of the people different than us.
We're so
We
close to
are
superpowers.
Empathy.
We tie into the reality of the world beyond the reality that we can see. Yeah.
We are the prime movers.
So yeah, Martin Silenus, we finally get what exactly was going on with him in the Shrike.
Yeah, he was just feeling things, that
Yeah.
other people were feeling. That's
He was just tapped into the void that binds.
I preferred it when it was just empathy. And I like, they really used the void that binds here. I would prefer if the power of love was kept a bit more metaphorical.
No,
So I'm guessing that the metaphysics of this world didn't work for you, Ash.
No. I didn't find them like hugely offensive. Like this wasn't it's not like he weaksed the magic system.
Wow.
Weeks is in Brent Weeks.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I've heard, but I've not read, so I kind of figure what you were going for.
Yeah, it's just something I just disagree with, Like although I agree with his point. So it's
So
it's a fuzzy
you disagree with the
criticism.
metaphysics, but you enjoy the metaphor.
Yes. Yes.
That's meta.
How do you think society would be changed if everyone could access memories of the past with perfect fidelity?
I think it would be better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
We would just have a better, more empathetic society, which is something I think about a lot.
I mean, even just outside of empathy, just talking about if people knew more about history, they'd see how often we're good at repeating it. So they would look at something and be like, hey, this has been tried before. How about we skip it this time?
Yeah, maybe when someone brings up the final solution to the ethnicity problem, you just know to steer away from that.
Oof.
Just
Yeah.
take a
I
hard
think
left.
they wouldn't even consider that if they had this empathy mechanism built into us like this.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, instantaneous teleportation wherever you want it seems pretty good too.
Oh, what was that book? That was
Only if
about
you're an
The
elite.
Stars My Destination.
That's it. Stars My Destination.
Yep. That
Oh
was
yeah,
my-
see, The Star's My Destination. That was a good book.
I think it's amazing how much I enjoyed that, despite hating the main character so much.
Yeah,
Yep.
Were you guys shocked that the first instance of the language of the dead was a direct Holocaust journal?
No.
No,
No.
not at all.
I liked it. It was good. I guess Dan Simmons has imparted his fascination with Jewish history onto me a little bit because I've just been, I've been questioning my Jewish friends a lot, listening to Jewish music. So it's been a very good experience. I watched Schindler's List last week again. So yeah, it was
Recently, I've been reading James Joyce, which is largely about a Jew living in Dublin, and a lot of Jew issues have been there as well. You should read that, Ash. It's very good.
I will at some point. Yep.
Okay. We've gone through the first part of this book. Now the second, Tian Shan, Fun Planet. Did we stay there too long?
Way too long. No, I don't care. I mean, it's cool that they have all this stuff, and this peak is that peak, and those peaks are these peaks, and the meat hall of Valhalla is somewhere in the bottom of this mountain or whatever. But I was like, man, can we just skip this?
Okay, so I would have liked to stay there the same amount of time, but I wish he had devoted the time there to anything other than the descriptions of people and just the descriptions of traveling from peak to peak. I was not interested in any of that.
Traveling action sequences made up a surprisingly large amount of the time there.
Yes. And was this good storytelling? It didn't feel like it to me.
Earlier I said my favorite planet was the Squid Planet with the sky and I'm falling the whole time, but it was long as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't feel as long though. Maybe just because putting in comparison with Tin Shin, it's not. But I could see what you mean.
See, I love tension. Yeah, you're right. The
Mhm.
descriptions are kind of crazy, but my favorite scene in the whole book happened in Tianjin.
Squid Planet should have been like one chapter, but I think it was 3.
I really liked that planet. I don't know. So I get what you mean totally, but I was having a lot of fun on that one.
Needed to have the cliffhanger where he gets eaten, but he's not actually eaten.
It's oh my god, he's Jonah. Dan Simmons, you wild man. He makes a metaphor without actually just hammering the point home and making the eating by a whale give him superpowers. That's incredible. Good job, Dan Simmons. One exercise of restraint in this novel.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Harsh.
You don't think it was restrained to wait 85% of the way through the novel before we found out what was going on at the end of the previous novel when he heard Ania's voice?
Honestly, that didn't even pop into my mind.
What are you referring to?
At the end of Endymion, Rawl's in his cat box and he hears Ania's voice in his head.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
And then somebody prints something on the microphone.
And then it lasts a significant amount of time until he's like exiting the cat box before he brings it up again.
Rawl is not very smart.
But
Yep.
it's weird because he is smart, but he's not. Like, he does all this stuff that's like, man, you MacGyver the heck out of like literally everything, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I didn't realize that you loved me. Oh,
Yep.
He jumps to a lot of conclusions and they're not often right.
Yeah.
Can we talk about Rawl? Because I loved Endymion. Partially because I think Rawl was just a really cool guy and he's really lovable and I enjoyed being in his head and his perspective. And in this one, he was just a lovesick, annoying puppy who
Hmm.
gets really jealous.
Really jealous.
It's annoying.
I was getting frustrated by both him and Nia because Nia was really leaning into the I can't tell you this yet,
Yep.
Yep.
but just follow along
Yep.
with me blindly, which I appreciate like a good dose of, but they really went hard on it.
So how many minutes did it take you to figure out that her previous husband and child were also Rawl? Because I'm guessing 30 seconds? Half a minute?
See, I was hoping that Ania had made a connection with someone else and Rawl would just realize that that's okay for humans to do. So
When Rawl was going crazy with jealousy that it was Abetic that had a child with Ania, I was like, oh my god, that would be great.
yeah, it would, wouldn't it?
it would have been pretty funny.
Abetic is so much better than Rawl.
I find it hilarious that he comes just right to the cusp of realizing that Aebetic is the observer and then just completely fails right before he leaves the cat box.
There's got to be some sort of like mind control going on there.
Nope, they just picked the stupidest man.
In my headcanon, Abetic is protected by some sort of like
Aebetic is a gray man, except for he's blue.
Abetic is a gray man until he decides to let it go at the very end when humanity has passed whatever test that allows Abetic to identify himself.
Maybe. I could buy that.
It makes it work better in my head other than thinking that Rawl is just an idiot.
But did everybody else know he was?
Oh,
Just
maybe
Ania.
Yeah.
Just Ania.
To be fair, no one else spent any time with Aebetic.
That's true.
I
He
mean,
kinda did his own thing.
thousands of people did, but they saw him as an android.
Mhm. Does that mean his brothers and sisters were observers too, or just him?
Unclear.
Okay.
I think so. I think they are. Yeah.
All androids are actually just observers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, there were never. Oh, not all androids. Just the ones he was talking about. His brothers and sister. So you really want to meet up with them. Although, I guess if they were connected with the void that binds, they wouldn't need to.
Exactly.
Although, honestly, the void that binds confuses me in a lot of ways.
It's empathy.
It is empathy. Yes, that's.
Yes.
I wish it had just stayed at that, but
Empathy at a distance.
yeah, I don't know how empathy connects with teleportation.
You wish that you could be in someone's shoes, and then you are.
Yeah.
But you don't go in someone else's shoes. You can go to anywhere, you know? It doesn't have to be near anybody.
It was some planet's shoes.
Yeah, it could make sense.
Sense to me. You put yourself in somebody else's shoes and then you're there.
You don't even need to be in their shoes. You like teleport yourself to other cultures and you live in other places and different climates and stuff, and then you have a better understanding.
It's a
So,
metaphor made real.
But you can already have that understanding with the language of the living, right?
There's little wormholes in every little bit of quantum foam, and all you have to do is navigate to the right one, and out you
I
pop.
see. Every time a child laughs, another wormhole forms.
Every time a particle loves another particle, a wormhole forms.
I think Ashman's just being a fuddy-duddy.
I promise I'll get over my criticisms of this. But just one more. Calling love the prime mover of the universe. So are they saying that love was the force that did the Big Bang? Because if so, I don't understand that causality.
love
it's called
sometimes
bang.
leads to a big bang.
Well, okay.
Wow.
So Aenea's sacrifice didn't cancel any world religions that we know of, right?
No.
Like,
No.
so if we take the Christian perspective, there is a loving God and he created the universe, right? So maybe he created it with love.
Well, the impression I got was that love was something that conscious beings do, and that's how you populate the void that binds. And so, like, oh, maybe like the prime mover things means that it evolves to love, and then you can retroactively, with timey-wimey shenanigans, create the thing that created yourself.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then you can get Tealhard's idea of God that could do that.
I started listening to the audiobook, and they pronounce that Teilhard. Did not know.
Well, now I know. Teilhard. Interesting.
You know why Rawl and Aenea started calling each other Scout and Boo at the beginning of the book?
And then they stopped?
Well, I
They
don't
stopped.
know why they would go with Scout and Boo.
It's a literary reference.
Yeah, I know.
Mm.
Like it's To Kill a Mockingbird, but
Yep.
like I just don't know why they chose Scout and Boo.
Yeah.
Because Rawl was an odd man who lived in the woods before he met Aenea, and she's the precocious child that drew him out of the shell. And then later they slept together, which makes it more uncomfortable.
It was all
Yep.
weird, and then he kept calling her kiddo even after, and I'm like, I call kiddo. That's like what I call my daughter, or like kids who are a young age. So I'm like, can you stop? Can you
Yes,
replace
it would have
I'm
been
like,
good of him to stop. Yes.
I call my wife baby. She's not a baby. I mean, some people when they're in the middle of sex call their partner daddy. I mean,
Not just in the middle of sex.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
I think you're looking into it too much.
maybe. I don't know.
I think the discomfort is the continuity. Like, I can accept that.
Yeah, how do we feel about their age gap?
I feel fine about it.
Okay.
I can accept that he and Aenea traveled together when she was young, and then when she was older, like of a mature age, then they could start a good relationship with each other. But
It's only been weeks for him.
it has only been that is true. But he had a kidney stone. So
It's
there's a
been
break in that continuity
weeks
there.
since she was a child for him.
But she kissed him when she was a child.
Doesn't make it better.
Really? Is it that bad, Kit? Come
Doesn't
on.
make it better. No. How does the realization that she's been seeing the future and since she was in the womb affect her? How does that affect her maturity level and her age of consent?
I think if she
I'm not
lived
going to apply a
longer,
mathematical formula to this.
I think if she had lived longer, she would have turned into Aaliyah of the Knife.
What?
From Dune.
Oh.
She's a messiah. How can she be Aaliyah?
Well, I don't want to get into Dune spoilers here.
Too late.
No, age gap doesn't really bother me. Honestly,
Okay.
unless someone's actually a child, it doesn't bother me in real life.
Yeah.
My parents started dating when my mother was 15 and my dad was 20.
Right.
Yeah, none of the other architectural students treated her as a child, right?
Nobody did, because like you are right. Like as far as
Yep.
maturity level goes, like she's more mature than like a lot of world leaders combined.
Yeah.
Adultness is a social construct.
She's definitely more mature than Rawl.
Definitely.
Yes. Well, yeah, like there's the
That's
age
not
gap.
up for debate. You know what? That does make me feel better about it.
There you go.
Hey,
Oh, and who liked the 8-year-old Dalai Lama?
I did.
He was so
He-
cool, and I liked his brother
Yeah.
too.
He was maybe my favorite character of the novel. And he
Very
had my
reasonable.
favorite scene of the novel.
no,
when it's
the Thunderbolt Sow, she was awesome.
she was cool. Yeah.
She was awesome.
Yeah, I'm a big
I wish
fan of
she had
Buddhism.
more moments,
Yes.
other than just her name being used for shock value.
Mhm.
The scene between the Dalai Lama and
Mustafa?
yes, that was maybe my favorite of the novel.
That's my favorite
Yes.
scene they told me. Just so much
Yeah.
tension there.
And like interesting
quotes.
intellectual interplay. Like this was
Yes.
like the only actual time where the ideologies were in direct verbal conflict besides Aenea getting tortured but not actually arguing with anybody.
Actually, when I was reading that, I was thinking Ash is really going to like this chapter.
Yes.
What, the torture chapter?
The party chapter.
The party chapter. The party really started when they started engaging in philosophical discourse.
This is why nobody invites Ashmon to parties.
I think I'm invited to parties every time someone answers my prompts on Discord.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, my kind of party is more the MOIT Spectrum Helix Festival on bicycles
That tracks.
Oh, cool.
I feel like I know you two so well.
and tiny ships in rivers that are brightly painted
So like St. Patty's Day, right?
with fireworks. I don't know if there are St. Patty's fireworks where you are, but I don't think there are where I am.
You got Green Rivers though.
I'm just imagining that's what Pride Day is like in Boston. I don't know.
Boston does not have an official Pride this year.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Interesting. Speaking of rivers, I really liked the dying is like water returning to water quote. Good job, Dan Simmons. That was a really insightful thing for you to come up with.
Yeah, that was all him.
I mean, real talk though, like it's actually incredible how prevalent Buddhism has become in academic philosophy over the past like 30 years. I don't know if Dan Simmons had been reading the philosophy up until then, but if he hadn't been, kind of prescient. Good job, Dan.
One of the things that I could relate most to, and anything that Dan Simmons has written in this book, was the feeling of awe and majesty of seeing St. Peter's Basilica. Because I'm not Catholic, but seeing that for the first time has left an impression on me that I'll never forget. And I think Simmons did a fantastic job describing that.
I haven't seen St. Peter's, but I fully expect to have the same reaction.
I have seen St. Peter's, and yes, it is gorgeous. It is so intricate and masterfully created that you can't help but say, yeah, that's a masterwork. It's one of those things you just see it and be like, can't imagine how much time, money, and effort that took to put together.
A lot bigger than I thought it would be.
But I also like the counterpoint to that we have on Tian Shan with the temple hanging in air. And we have the Eightfold Path and the platforms of right mindfulness and right meditation, right action, right effort. And I do think that a lot of the things that happen on those various platforms are symbolically linked to the platform they're on. And I like that.
I can buy that. This is a great thing. Dan Simmons fully let the metaphor be metaphor there. Nia's architecture was just, I really liked how it was done. It was just good. You know, it's just good.
Do you think Jesus was as good a carpenter as she was an architect?
I don't know how Jesus got nanobots in his blood. That's what I want to know.
He did make a cup that will heal you.
It's from the ultimate intelligence from the future.
Ah, it sent back some nanobots.
The Shrike
for
delivered
Jesus.
them.
I see.
Okay, so
good guy,
on religion, yeah, I really enjoyed how much attention Buddhism and Christianity got in this novel. I wish there was more Judaism and Islam.
I wish there was more Judaism just all the time. The more I learn about it, the more fascinated I become of it.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of implicit Judaism, like the myth of the golem being basically the foundation for superheroes, but there's a lot that's great there.
Yeah, I feel like as far as Islam and Judaism went, they mostly just got sidelined as part of the Peace and Justice Project.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of explicitly. And let's just tuck all these guys that'll complicate the narrative out of the way for a bit.
Yeah,
I wish there was a Moses and a Muhammad hybrid. That would have been cool.
maybe there was on a different part of Old Earth.
Yeah, you never
just
know.
I wanted to meet
those
him.
experiments.
Those experiments took longer. It would have been too many books.
You could have did spin-offs.
Spin-offs. Oh yeah, yeah. That
Oh,
would
God.
a great framing device. Just like thousands of books in the series.
He's still alive. He can still write.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't think I want them, but it could happen.
You never know. Maybe they'd be good.
It's like Vault Tech, you know?
Speaking of time travel, let's talk about Hetmastine
Yeah.
as we dive into the last third of the book and we get the resolution of Hetmastine and Colonel Kassad and the Shrike, and also, Ania's sacrifice by fire. Did you feel like this made up for Hetmastine's lack of a story in the first book?
No.
Half.
Maybe. I didn't like how Kassad coming back was really added to the narrative at all.
I don't think Kassad added either.
I'm fine with Hetmastine coming back. I just wish he had, said anything about himself.
Yeah, he didn't really have a story.
There was another like Saul Rastine. Actually had more.
Oh yeah.
More to say than
Yeah.
Het.
Het.
I don't know.
I
It's
mean,
hard
that
to-
wasn't his name, but I'm trying to remember.
It was something Rastine, I think. It definitely ended in teen.
It did. Yeah.
I think they all do.
I wish we had more of the Templar philosophy. We get almost none in this series. I also wish we had more ousters.
They like trees.
That's why I said no. Like when he asked if I was satisfied with
Hmm.
not having Het in the first one, it's because this is not really about Het. It's more like, I don't know, felt more like a cameo.
Yeah, he shows up. He's the one that
Yeah.
pilots the tree so they can get there. Although, honestly, I don't even see why they needed the tree.
I did feel like he had to be there, but I did not like what we saw of him because it was not personable enough. He was there to be a captain under fire, but we never really got anything other than, oh, he's involved in his view screens and needs to really focus right now.
I
Yeah.
was more satisfied with Fedman Kassad's inclusion, which is
Really?
saying a lot.
Okay.
I thought Hetmastine also had the clumsiest retcon. Because, man, I really don't buy the tree that he was piloting being the tree of pain. Like the
No,
metal tree.
I don't
was,
either.
right?
No.
It really felt to me that Dan Simmons, like maybe he had like thought that he would do something with Hetmastine the back half of the series, but he hadn't thought at all about what it would be. So he needed to make up some kind of justification here that would fit in and make Hetmastine's last words make any sort of sense in the context of the first two books.
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely a stretch there. This is the Tree of Pain because the Shrike is here, and if the Shrike's here, then Kassad is here, and
Really, pain is wherever the Shrike is, you know? Every tree that the Shrike goes near is the Tree of Pain.
this
like
is
Air
the
Force
final
One.
atonement.
We talk about the Shrike.
Yeah.
He's badass. Like, I think he's seriously one of the coolest like creatures in all of fantasy. And I wish there were more books.
And
about
he
the
never
Shrike.
says a word.
He's so
Yeah.
cool.
So cool.
That's what makes it
Mhm.
cool.
I would have liked it if he had more of a role in the finale. Like the last chance the Shrike actually gets to shine is fighting against Neems's lackeys.
Siblings.
Yeah, sure.
Lackeys.
Also, I think it's awesome that the Shrike is literally a Machina ex Deus, Deus ex Machina. And I think that's
Yeah.
probably where Dan Simmons got the idea.
Maybe. I would buy that. Yeah, I really like that. I did like that a lot. Yes. It was good.
I was confused about what Machina X Deus Ex Machina. I tried to think of it, but it was late at night, so I couldn't figure it out.
Machine from God from the Machine? I think
Yeah.
it was, yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, like, yeah, he's a machine from the god, but he's also a Deus ex Machina in the sense that we use it, like,
Yeah.
in narrative.
Okay, right. Yeah, okay, that makes
He's a
sense.
god from the machine from the god from the machine.
He's a machine from the god. That's like a god from the machine. That's also a Deus ex Machina.
Deus ex machina, in a literary sense, because he arrives and solves problems.
Okay.
That were unsolvable otherwise.
And he's a machine from
Yeah.
a god.
But really, he's got Kassad's warm little heart inside of him.
Did anyone buy that Rawl would beat Radamanth Neems in a fight?
No.
I read it happen, so yeah.
Yeah.
I read it and I was like, this isn't plausible. Why is she losing? Why didn't she just instantly kill him? We've seen her do this kind of thing.
Yep, we have.
And like, I would have bought it if he had like any sort of advantage over her, right? Like,
But he had nothing.
he had his fists against a being of metal. You know what happens when you punch metal?
It hurts.
Your hands break. This is why I don't buy Captain America versus Iron Man, because
I mean,
he's
you
just
know what
punching
happens
him
when you punch a person, your hands break.
That
She
too.
didn't have her timey-wimey powers, man. That's got to account for 99% of her power.
I don't think that's 99% of her power.
I think it's
Yeah.
probably 110%.
I think Abetic would win a fight against Rawl.
Well,
Yeah, but
Abetic
Abetic's
definitely would,
amazing.
yeah. One-handed, of course.
He's the one that took away Radamanth Nemesis' powers.
I mean, possibly. Might have been his compatriots.
Maybe the core just ran out of batteries, you know?
I do like the idea that Abetic can just look at you sideways and take away all of your ability to fight.
Now, he had used all of his powers, taking away Rawl's ability to reason. Kind of exhausted him.
Whoops.
Harsh. Love makes
I
us
rag on Rawl.
stupid.
I actually like Rawl.
I do too, and I think if they just took away so much pining and so much jealousy, that
Rage.
I would enjoy him a lot more. But like that's the
Yes.
thing, Rawl has always been an incredibly and easily flawed character,
Yep.
Mhm.
but his I guess his benefits far outweigh his lovableness just far outweighs his problems. But like just this book specifically, it really got on my nerves.
I think his best moment was actually in his introduction when he killed the guy who killed his dog.
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah.
That was when he peaked as a character.
That was appropriate levels of rage.
Hmm.
As
Mhm.
opposed to Ania tells him that she had a child with another man, or with a man.
did he feel rage then?
Yeah, he felt rage. He felt a whole bunch of emotions, including jealousy, rage, sadness, despair.
The thing I didn't like about that was not that he got angry, but that he just went right back to following her like a little sheep.
Yeah.
People are complicated.
People are complicated, and you know what? That's what he said he would do, and I believe that Rawl would do that, but like I do think it would have larger quakes in their relationship than what we saw on screen.
I would have liked it if there was like at least just maybe one moment where he just was too angry or hurt to just follow her instructions to the letter, and that had some kind of bad consequences.
Maybe replace a lot of superfluous descriptions with that.
Could have
Yes.
replaced a lot with that. Or you could have just cut away those and have a shorter novel.
No. Everybody knows that more page count equals better book.
Oh man. Yeah, that really felt like he was doing the Dickens thing here.
Or Dumas.
Yeah. These lengthy travelogues are one of the reasons I do not recommend Ilium and Olympos.
Yep.
That's fair.
We found a sailboat. We're going to use it for a while on this random place.
Sounds accurate. Yep.
Speaking of things to get angry about, okay, I guess I will get a bit mad at Rawl for getting angry about Ania when there's literal genocide happening around him. I got very angry when I heard the accounts of the Pax just murdering Ouster families.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
We have
Yeah.
not talked about Father Captain Frederico de Soya,
Or Gregorius.
or Redig Key.
Yeah.
Or Corporal C? What is that his name is? Or what is his name? Is that his name?
And I thought Key.
Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think it's
Corporal
Key.
Key. Yeah.
Yeah. Redig Key. Yeah. I got his
I
first
see.
name.
Yeah, there you go. Wow. Look at you knowing people's names. That's weird. That's
He's
weird,
read
man.
it 12
You know.
times.
And of course, Hoag Liebler.
Oh, Liebler.
Yeah, so genocide. Yeah, those
Yeah.
descriptions of killing all the Ouster babies was not easy.
No.
No.
It was something that was always in the back of my mind on literally every single Gregorius and Desoria part. And like it's something really unforgivable, but they obviously are trying to make it right, even though it's impossible to. I think I would enjoy a whole book from their perspective of trying to deal with that, because I don't feel like it was addressed enough in this book.
I felt that DeSoya redeemed himself here. I'm also generally a pretty forgiving person, or try to be. It does leave a bad taste in your mouth, though. Like, especially since I think the implication is that a lot of the people who did the genociding converted. They drank Nia's blood and, stopped doing that. I would have liked just, I don't know, like a little bit from them, realizing what the horrible thing they've done is.
I mean,
Oh.
they committed mutiny based on that. Like, we had that whole sequence.
Sure.
After I think they did another genocide, right?
They did a couple.
Yeah.
They did at least 6. Yeah.
You get the
man.
confession between Gregorius, and like that was terrible. And
Yeah.
like I think his emotion came through and like his heartfelt sorrow, but
Yep. They did a sequential amount of genocide. And then they were like, wow, this is so successful. Let's continue this campaign after a refit. And they were like, no.
I really did enjoy that scene when they did mutiny and DeSoya
Yeah.
trying to hide his thoughts and his actions, and like there's just a lot of tension there.
In his like tactical space detent with Mother Captain Stone.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and using the
Death
what's the
beams.
word? No, procedure. He uses the official military procedure to cover up his actions, basically.
Yeah, he's like, I got secret orders and I can't let you see them.
Mm-hmm. I promise. Don't Don't look at me too closely.
Look, I even got a transmission. You can check.
I do think the Pax parts of the novel were some of the strongest. Maybe because they were generally the most lean. Like, we don't get a lot from relevant bishops.
Did you like the Mustafa and Lord Usami parts?
I didn't like the Mustafa parts.
Okay, I didn't either.
I liked the other parts of them, though. Like, these really felt like monstrous people.
Yep.
Lord Usami especially.
Yes.
Kusami's terrible. Okay, when Albedo was explaining in the soundproof room with Stupid Hoyt and everybody, when he's explaining like why they're doing this and the Technocore's perspective, did anyone else for like even just a minute be like, oh, that's actually kind of reasonable?
Wait, when they were torturing Ania?
No, when like all of
When they were laying out the reasons for why they need to put all of these planets into suspended animation.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
I don't
Like,
remember
oh,
why.
that makes
and
sense.
also genocide the Oasters.
Yes.
And then
Yeah,
as soon as that meeting was over, I was like, what was I thinking? Like, no, that's terrible. Why am I listening to these people?
Yeah, just enough truth in those lies to make them sound reasonable.
I was not taken in by it, but I was like, oh, I can see how these people who are deeply invested in terrible ideas would be swayed by this.
Mhm.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Except who was the one? Isozaki? Who was the
Kenzo
leader?
Isozaki.
Yeah, Isozaki. Like he was. It was fun reading from his perspective because he's like, "What? This is horrifying. What?" And everybody else in her was like, "Yeah. I had Cheerios for breakfast, and this makes sense."
Let's list the things that he did on screen, though. Can we list any way that he helped on screen
No.
when it was one of his chapters?
Miyazaki?
That he took any
No.
meaningful action that shifted the balance of power?
No, he was just a vessel for the story.
He advocated for free market capitalism.
Boo!
And yeah, no, that what you just said, his ending with like, "Oh, capitalism of the heart." I was like, "Okay, please go home."
I mean, we've all got our religions, right?
He's so good at
Ooh.
logistics. He's helping.
Ugh.
Yep.
Logistics in a world that's trying not to use Hawking drives is not necessarily one where I would think that Kenzo Isozaki would be an incredibly useful man.
Right? You have instantaneous communication and teleportation with no cost to either of those. So, yeah, do you really need logistics at that point?
I mean, to a degree, because like you have the instantaneous, but like you still have supply demand issues
Yeah.
that could arise.
That's true. You do have issues with production, but logistics is about moving things from place to place generally.
Yeah, true.
X place needs Y by Z date. Like, you still need to calculate and correlate all of that stuff together.
Sure. You don't need a genius to do that stuff, though. I don't
No,
think.
you really don't need a genius of like one important figurehead in order to corral it all together.
Maybe they needed him because maybe empathy allows for the travel, but cynicism is how you have instant production.
Oh, there you go. Some good thoughts.
Moving on beyond the fact that we could have just cut Kenzo Isozaki entirely from this novel and had no effect to the plot.
Can we talk about the core a bit?
Sure.
No.
So, I didn't like the core in this. I especially didn't like...
What did they do that displeased you?
It's not what they did, it's the framing of the AIs that bothered me. Okay, so you're the biologist, so you're
Sure.
presumably going to know more about this stuff than I will.
Random bio moment. They referred to Ania's blood as somatic in at least once, and then they use that to say it means that it will be passed on to your children. And I'm like, no. Somatic genetic engineering means that it will not be passed on to children. That is the whole point of that word in that sentence. Like,
You don't
I
know
thought
what
it
that
was
means
off.
going to mean in a few hundred years.
somatic refers to general body cells, specifically excluding the ones involved in reproduction.
Here we go. I didn't find it plausible that the hyper parasitism of the AIs would lead them to be just like definitionally evil. Like
Yeah.
their methods of reproduction to me didn't seem like they're frankly all that different from the organic life that we know. And like I would have liked it if they had like, I don't know, like a cameo from Uman or like any sympathetic character, or a payoff for Keats in his like last scene with the console saying that I'm gonna go make some trouble there. It was just kind of Counselor Albedo showing up and cackling maniacally as he said, "Oh, you puny humans! Oh, we are using you as slaves, and there's nothing you can do about it." Ha ha ha!
Definitely.
What was their plan? Like, just keep humans in the labyrinthine caverns, like, dormant and quiet forever?
I guess, and like kill them. Okay, I didn't buy the killing them off produces amazing cognitive abilities for a second. That can't possibly outweigh the time that it takes for people to regenerate, right? This doesn't seem
You would
plausible.
think.
I
That you would think.
Yeah, so like all of the science, the quote science surrounding the core, I did not buy at all.
No.
But I
No.
was pleasantly surprised to see a shout out to John von Neumann.
There seemed to also be an implication that AIs without bodies are just inherently immoral.
Yeah, and they can't have empathy or souls. It felt very
They can't
out
even
of
have
place.
worth.
Yeah,
In a novel that seemed to say, like, oh, everything that's involved with life is part of life and everything's all one greater whole, seemed to be very exclusive of those technocores.
yeah, it's weirdly AI racist.
Weirdly.
Carbon fascist.
Androids are fine. AI sucks, apparently.
Cybrids are even fine.
Hybrids are fine, yeah. As long as they've got a body.
Did any of the biological stuff for the AIs make sense to you, Kip? Did it seem like this is good science, or?
I will say that as parasites get more and more parasitical and they lose more and more of themselves and compact themselves down, they do really kind of stop thinking of any sort of long-term goals for themselves or independent goals.
Like humans.
The core did seem to be long-term thinking, though.
Yes, because the core was actually, thinking, and most parasites don't.
I think the implication was also that those 24-byte organisms were what led to AI.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
a weird concept. I don't think any AI researcher nowadays would
That was a very weird concept. Though I will say that one of my favorite viruses on just a theoretical level is hepatitis D, and it's a virus that has lost so much of itself that it requires other strains of hepatitis to be co-infecting the individual with it in order to reproduce at all.
Huh.
Fun.
It has not just lost its reproductive attributes, but it has lost the ability to even tell a cell how to reproduce and create more copies of itself. It's an obligate parasite to the second degree.
So you're saying that hepatitis D is actually the AI that we've been looking for?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it's a hyper parasite.
Correct. It is obviously the pinnacle of evolution and is going to replace us.
Last quibble I have. Actually, no, this is an actual criticism. At some point, Ania is saying that, that's the core has realized that, something to do with empathy. So some core entities have started evolving empathy, or started evolving out of their parasitism, just as a result of occurrences.
As a result of what? Yeah.
Yeah. But we never get any AI that's sympathetic.
Nope.
What happened there? Was that just, like a mistake of editing? Did he intend to do something more? I don't know.
Maybe it was just Uman, and now he's dead.
Now he's dead. Why didn't he show up again? Or any reference to him at all?
Everyone knows that when an AI dies, there's no way ever to bring them back or hear about what they thought in life. All their data is instantly gone.
That's what I got from what Counselor Albedo, because it seemed to me obvious that this was not the same Albedo that was around during the hegemony. This was some kind of demonic, vampiric entity that had latched itself onto and consumed most of Albedo, and was reusing his body for the core purposes. But it would be nice to see that done for any other one of the core, or just a good one. That would have been good.
What do people think about the usefulness of Radamanth Neems?
Well, I mean, she wasn't useful, but
Was that a personality that you would design if you were trying to
just purely sadistic entity?
Go out into the world and do your bidding?
No.
She was like a bad henchman. In theory, really well put together anti-Shrike technology or whatever, but out there in the world, it was just sort of.
She's like killing.
Yeah, she wasn't even that good at it. Every time she needed to actually hit a target, she would be like, "Whoops, I missed again."
Yeah, or get punched through 50
Raw
feet
punched
of
me.
dirt by the Shrike.
The Shrike's kind of a bamf, so
It is, but also like she was doing something against it last book, and this book she just kind of got shreked.
She broke one of its arms,
That's true.
and she stretched its neck.
There
I
was
think for a killer, it's good to be fueled by hate. And I think if she succeeded in her task, first of all, we wouldn't have a book, and second of all, we wouldn't have this conversation. So she had to have failed.
but she also
She didn't have to be able to get so close.
she disappeared from the novel halfway through, a bit more than halfway, 2/3 of the way through, and then she didn't show up again. That bothered me.
She did show up again during the torture.
Yeah,
Took off
sort
her
of, but like there's
fingernail.
no personality from those entities really. They're just kind of mindless.
I mean, they
Statists.
seemed very sadistic, but yeah.
She ate a finger.
Yeah.
No, she bit off a finger and
Then
spit it
spat
out
it
into a
into a bowl.
wastebasket,
Yeah.
Whoops.
which we had described had a plastic liner in it.
So wasteful.
That's what you got to have the oil fields on Maui Covenant for.
Yeah, and all of a sudden there were multiple Nemes. Do you think that meant that maybe they decided that the Scylla and Briareus and Gyges models were inferior to her?
I guess.
Nobody seems to like this topic. Okay.
I
I think it's maybe the weakest part of the novel we're talking about right now.
Okay.
I think if people didn't listen to the beginning of this episode, they would think we hated this book.
Maybe, yeah. We're
That's
just talking
true.
about criticisms. I liked this book, but there's like a lot of points where it's just like, Dan Simmons, what were you thinking? Why did you do this? Why did you bring back Nemes at all? Like she could have stayed in the dirt and it would have been just fine. The court could have been like, we don't have the resources to create more of these, and everything would have been good.
Yep.
I think if you like Simmons' writing in the first 3 books, you'll like this one, especially when it comes to the way he can accurately portray human emotion and relationships.
And tribalism and people getting infected by bad ideas.
Tribalism for sure.
Yeah.
How many different examples are there of tribalism and genocide in this book?
Oh boy,
And
a
how many
lot.
different
Tons.
like types?
You want us to count?
That's a lot of them.
Is that
I'm
many?
Many, let's say at least 5 different types.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would say at least 5.
define a type.
Okay, so one type would be obviously the historical, where we have the Holocaust fragments.
Hmm.
And a second would be the futuristic example of genocide, where you just store people in labyrinths.
I'm going to stop you there because even in the historical perspective, you could look at that and you could separate that into 2 more types and be like, oh, okay, well that's anti-Semitism, or you could say that's anti-religion, or that's
Yep.
racist. So like, I mean, depends on where you stop.
I guess I was talking about like mechanical types. I don't know.
Many is the correct answer.
Many is the correct
yeah,
answer.
we're just humans are
Sure.
just good at hating each other for many reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we are hateable.
That's true.
I would say hateable insofar as we're willing to commit genocide.
I mean,
And-
I've never committed genocide, and plenty of people hate me.
You see, I would think that people are being too harsh towards you, and they need to grow some empathy.
They need to learn the language of the living.
They need to learn the language or the dead, really, because that would lead you to the good places too. This is why people
Yeah.
need to read books, really.
Okay. We've
That's
ragged
true.
on that enough. What was everyone's favorite part from this book?
Besides the one I've mentioned,
You're done, Ash.
Okay, I actually really do enjoy the metaphor of empathy connecting people and turning that into a mechanic. And I found it very moving and beautiful, especially when he goes into listening to the voice still living into the dead. And the
Okay.
really high emotional moments like Ania's torture were quite moving. But no, wait, my favorite part was that scene in Tian Shan with the religious philosophical discussion and the tension sitting behind that.
Okay. Dusty.
Oh man. I don't know. It's funny because going back to the cloud planet with the sky squids, I actually really enjoyed like the descriptions of these massive like continent-sized thunderstorms, and just I really like science fiction for the sense of like I always thought it'd be really cool to be able to stand on another world. and like have everything be
Mhm.
completely just new. And so when I get descriptions like that, it really kind of hits that note for me. And so reading that whole section, it was so good, and I felt like I was there. I was like, okay, thanks. I needed that.
More descriptions is what this book needs. Got it.
Did you also like the star tree? Because I feel like those are the two bits in this book where he really portrays the like majesty of large spaces.
I liked the star tree. Yes, I thought that was really cool, like this idea and the ideas that they had for the future of it. Because I think about stuff like that all the time. Like, what if we made all of space breathable? Again, breathable for who? But like, what if we did something like that? That'd be really neat. But yeah, some of the descriptions and other things going on during the star tree, I was like, you're taking away from the coolest part. So
I liked how they had water and comets, and
Yes.
yes,
the that Rawl was in a kayak when he was on that world, because that just captures the feeling of being in a kayak or a canoe. More a kayak though.
Or a canoe.
More a kayak.
Or a
Mm.
canoe.
No, that's ridiculous.
I know.
I think my favorite moment is when the polygamous marriage reveals the secret escape tunnel in their house and the resistance movement that they're a part of.
Yeah,
That was
cool.
my favorite movement.
That's a good moment too, actually.
Yep.
There are actually some like little times too where I really enjoyed when they had that description of like how the rebellions were playing out within the packs. So the pack is like falling apart and like what's happening, and I'm like, oh yeah, I love this stuff. Like, rise up, let's do it. Like that was pretty fun.
I really liked how a lot of it was nonviolent.
Uh-huh.
I also liked the idea that once you've drunk of the communion, hurting people hurts you, which
Yep.
that's empathy for you.
Enforced empathy. I know Ellie Modesitt does a version of that in some of his books where like if you're attuned to the right magic system, any harm that you cause to someone else hurts you back.
An important part of the parable of the sower as well.
I do
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
wish that bit, the communion was somatic, so that people that their children had a choice too.
You run into problems there with the whole idea of evolution.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's an evolution of humanity, but it's not passed on to your children. That
But it-
doesn't work.
No, it could be passed on as a cultural thing, not necessarily a.
Like
Yeah.
baptism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if it's like changing your DNA so that you can adapt to like a gas giant, what happens if unadapted humanity pops out of like in the middle of the Great Red Spot? Like
They die.
But like it's not like it doesn't change your physical characteristics besides the listening to the language of the dead and the living and letting you teleport.
Sure, but if you look at humanity right now, even if you have a mental difference, it can vastly change how you are going to fit. I'm air quoting for those people not knowing, in a society.
I know all about that.
I think it actually does, Ash. I think it does actually change your physical characteristics.
Not in the sense that you would be better at breathing on gas giants. No, that's not the sense that I got, at least. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something.
I think you're missing something. It's really just hinted at in this ending book, but there is a novella later which clarifies some bits and shows
Really?
some humanity further down the line.
Didn't know that.
Although I wanted to point out to Dusty that living now in a modern society for the, I'll say neural divergent, it's still much better than it used to be, for the
Yes.
most part.
100% agree with you, and that is
Okay.
part of
So
our.
you're
evolution
comparing
and
now to the future. Got it.
I do believe that it is getting better, like you said, and that I don't necessarily agree with those people who say that you can't live in a society if blah blah blah. But I'm just looking at what we've seen throughout history. It can have huge effects.
Yep.
Mhm.
Add that to the types list. Many plus
Yeah.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, intellectual genocide. That's not strictly what we were talking about, but it was a thing that happened.
And then we
Yeah.
did find out that some genocides weren't complete extinctions, right? The empath from Hebron.
That's something. As far as that goes, when they were the Pax was attacking the star tree, I didn't like how later it was like, oh, we actually have lots of star trees.
Yeah.
That to me, yeah. That was,
Yeah. I also wasn't a huge fan of, all of the trees from God's Grove turned into the star tree.
Yeah.
Okay, one last question. How did everyone feel about Rawl specifically as a storyteller and narrator throughout these last two books? Did you like the frame story? Did you like his little digressions and his omissions?
Yes.
Yeah, I did as well. See, this is a point where his lack of intelligence kind of helps the story. Because readers are left to piece together deeper insights on their own rather than being told to them.
True.
I like Rawl. I like his perspective, and specifically, I like the frame of him being inside a Schrodinger's cat box and him talking about that every once in a while and remembering that the entire time. Because I've never read anything like that, and it became important at the end.
And him just like losing his mind for 14 months while he made his story
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and putting in some self-imposed restrictions on the language of the living and the spheres.
Is this how authors just write? Is this it's another meta-textual thing?
Perhaps.
When Simmons wrote this, he put himself in a box, and then there was some sort of outside interference that if it occurred, it would have been really cyanide. So that's how he finished the series.
Yeah, it wouldn't be hard to construct a Schrodinger's cat box yourself. You just need like a Geiger counter and a radioactive isotope. Those are
It'd be
easy
nice.
to get.
It'd
Okay,
be nice fire under your feet.
now that you brought up the radioactive isotope, why do you guys think that it never went off?
The gods.
Who was calling?
Because of love.
I mean, radioactive decay is a quantum phenomenon that cannot be predicted in advance. However, if you happen to have a god that rests in the quantum phenomena, then maybe they can alter that.
Yep.
And that's why I said that there's a difference between the execution method at the very start of Endymion, which was by a Comlog random number generator, and one which is actually being based in the physical reality of an isotope decaying.
Sure. Yeah, if you account for the special sauce of the text, it does become meaningfully different.
And I think that's fun.
Yeah,
One is Ania changeable and one is not.
that's true. The specifics of the time make less sense to me in this book, but I think I choose to believe that every time Ania says the future can be changed, she's actually just lying. And it's just B theory all the way through.
I think we hit our quota for bingo.
We did hit our quota. So let's do one last moment with each person. What was your favorite moment in all 4 books?
Oh, it's really difficult. I really liked a lot of the stuff in like traveling world to world, but I think some of my favorite moments that I wish we had more of were when Sol and Paul Dure were like kind of starting to become buddies and like talking towards the end of Fall of Hyperion. That stuff was gold.
That stuff was great. The 2 scholars talking together. Yeah.
Probably the moment that sticks out the most to me is in the consul's story in Hyperion when Marin and Ciri were talking to the dolphins, and the dolphins said that they miss the sharks the most.
I think my moment, if I can't just say all of the Scholar's Tale, is specifically when Rachel has that party, her birthday party with all of her friends from university and the archaeological expedition. And then she says, "Dad never let me do that again." That's such an inflection point for Saul's tragedy. I just love it so much.
Honorable mention to the first and last smile Rachel gives.
Yeah. I didn't
Not
like
mine.
what they did to Rachel's character in this book.
Oh, it was
She-
so unnecessary to include her.
She was not a character.
Nope. She showed up,
Okay.
it's like, hey, I'm Rachel.
Yep, Hurin.
For the record, here in my entire vocabulary of manageable words, a quick analysis will show some redundancy here. I had at my disposal 8 nouns, which stood for 6 things. 5 of the 8 nouns could be double as verbs. I retained 1 indisputable noun and a single adjective, which also could be used as a verb or expletive. My new language universe was comprised of 4 monosyllables, 3 compound words, and 2 baby talk repetitions. My arena of literal expression offered 4 avenues to the topic of elimination, 2 references to human anatomy, 1 request for divine imprecation, 1 standard description of or request for coitus, and a quote variation, which was no longer an option for me since my mother was deceased. All in all, it was enough.
Yeah, that one's really good.
That one was fun. That one was fun. Honorable mention, Maina Gladstone.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you got to specify a moment there, right? Not just the entire character.
Honorable mention, Maina Gladstone walking the worlds, facing down thugs in Lucis hives with nothing more than a stare.
Hmm.
Just some sad eyes.
And a robot that would have killed them.
They didn't see that.
I didn't know.
Oh, I should mention, Dan Simmons really likes sad eyes. I can't get
Loves
angry at
his
him
sad eyes.
because I like sad eyes too. But
It does get a little much when you have so many people with them, but
Mhm.
especially for 2 books, feels new, feels nice. So thank you so much for the Hurin is cracking up, but thank you for joining us for our Hyperion Cantos discussions. It was a blast, and I hope to see you guys again in some future series.
We can dream.
Have any last moments? Can't
Farewell.
hear you, Hurin.
Hurin muted himself.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Toodaloo.
Yay.
Okay. Our intro and outro music is Galactic Damages by Jingle Punks. Thank you, Craig, for loaning us this corner of his media empire, and thank you, Horizon Brave, for getting it all started.